Chapter 1. In the 5th year of our marriage, I made a foolish mistake. I forced Sam's beloved canary out of the country, hoping he would change his heart and come back to me. But when he found out, he said nothing. Instead, he brought down my family overnight, bankrupting us, forcing my father to his knees, and turning my mother's hair white in a single night. Now, he stood before me, his face dark and menacing, ready to lay his hands on me. Zoe, I blame myself for treating you too well. It made you forget your place, he said coldly. Now, it's your turn to experience what it feels like to wish you were dead. After Sam spoke those words, I finally lifted my head to look at him. We had spent 4 years dating and 5 years married. We had shared the best years of our youth. Yet here we were, facing each other like enemies. I touched my belly, 3 months pregnant. But Sam didn't seem to notice. Instead, he glared at me, his voice full of anger. I'm giving you one last chance. Where did she go? I wanted to laugh bitterly, but my one act of rebellion had already doomed my entire family. If you let my parents go, I'll tell you, I said. Sam nodded. He slowly walked toward me, catching me off guard. He grabbed my neck tightly, forcing me to tilt my head up to meet his eyes. Zoe, don't mistake my mercy for weakness, he growled. After a moment, Sam sneered. Tracking down Miranda is just a matter of time. What right do you have to negotiate with me? The intense pressure around my throat made me gag instinctively. My face flushed red, veins bulging under my skin, grinding my teeth. I fought through the surge of terror and despair that crept over me, forcing myself to scream with all my might. Even if you find her, does that give you the right to make my father kneel to you? He's my father. Sam's face remained expressionless as he squeezed my neck, his strength terrifying. Tears welled up in my eyes as I stared into his dark, crazed gaze. I had no doubt he would strangle me for another woman without hesitation. Just as I was about to lose consciousness, Sam abruptly released me. I gasped desperately for air, my body trembling uncontrollably as I curled up on the sofa. In just an instant, a flood of memories overwhelmed me. I couldn't stop myself from bursting into sobs, grieving for the love we once had, for this hopeless marriage, and, most of all, for the pitiful person I had become. Sam stood there, watching me coldly, completely indifferent. He didn't even let me catch my breath, grabbing my chin roughly. His voice turned even colder. I'll ask you one last time, where did you send my Miranda? After extracting the information from me, Sam stormed out of the room without a second thought. I clearly saw the momentary flash of relief and happiness on his face. My husband had already gone insane over another woman. Wiping away my tears, I immediately called my parents, preparing for us to move out overnight. I had expected my father to scold me, but instead, his aged voice, thick with emotion, comforted me. Our poor Zoe has suffered enough. I don't blame you. Let's just leave. After hanging up, guilt and despair consumed me. Sam and I had fallen in love in college and married right after graduation. His family was wealthy and powerful, something my father had never even dared to dream of. At first, he hesitated, worrying that I might suffer because of the gap between our families. After all, I had no influence or protection from my side. But back then, I had promised him with all my heart that Sam loved me enough to never let me be mistreated. Chapter 2. He used to prepare gifts for me on every holiday, proudly introducing me to all his friends. Whenever we were apart, he would tell me countless times a day how much he missed me, getting jealous if anyone so much as glanced at me, and his eyes would turn red with anger. He once said, "Zoe, do you know? Everyone in the Sam family is twisted and cold. Only you taught me what love really means." Sam was insecure, constantly needing reassurance of my love. I would always hug him tightly, holding him until he finally drifted off to sleep in my arms. I thought we would stay that way forever. So when he suddenly turned cold, it threw me into a panic. Miranda was a fresh college graduate. The first time I heard her name was from Sam's secretary. The secretary joked, saying, "Young girls these days have no creativity. Throwing coffee on the CEO? That's so old school." I laughed it off, thinking it was just a silly story. But not long after, Miranda broke tradition and became Sam's personal assistant. Sam would take Miranda horseback riding. When she struggled to ride, He would hold her from behind, guiding the horse as they rode together. Miranda knew nothing about the business world. Sam patiently taught her, even showing her personally how to brew tea properly. When some tactless business partners made inappropriate jokes about Miranda, the usually composed Sam beat one of them so badly he ended up hospitalized. Sam wasn't trying to hide it. His affection for Miranda became an open secret. By the time the rumors reached me, they were already attending lavish events together, holding hands and kissing amid the crowd's teasing laughter. I stared at the photos others sent me, and for the first time, I lost my temper at Sam. He just sat silently in his executive chair, staring at me. His gaze seemed to accuse me of being unreasonable. "Zoe," he said calmly, "you're almost 30. Why are you competing with a little girl? When you were in your early 20s, I cherished you the same way, didn't I?" At that moment, it felt as if I had fallen into an icy abyss. I finally understood Sam's love was indeed consistent. He loved youth, and I was no longer young. Originally, I had planned to simply file for divorce, but then I found out I was pregnant, wanting to give my child and my family one last chance. I asked my father to arrange for some people to send Miranda abroad. The result was predictable. After 9 years of being together, I meant nothing to Sam. I lost everything, completely and utterly. My father asked me to give him 3 days. Since we had already offended the Sam family, there was no longer a place for us in this country. Taking advantage of the time, I scheduled an abortion for that very day. Since the love was gone, there was no reason to keep Sam's child. There would be plenty of young women willing to bear his children anyway, but the doctor told me that the pregnancy had advanced too far. I would need an induction procedure, requiring hospitalization, and since I could only stay in the city for 3 more days, I had no choice but to postpone it. On the way back, I tried to negotiate a divorce through a lawyer, but the moment they heard Sam's name, all of them backed off. "Miss, Sam's company has a professional legal team. I'm afraid we're not qualified to handle this case." I understood and didn't press further. After marrying Sam, I had become a full-time housewife. He said he didn't want me showing my face in public, and foolishly, I had obeyed for 5 long years. Now, every connection I had was tied to him. I had no one to turn to. It didn't matter. Once he brought Miranda back, the divorce would come easily enough. Chapter 3. I did a rough inventory of everything at home. I decided not to take anything valuable, only some seasonal clothes and my identification documents. Ever since becoming pregnant, I had been feeling constantly exhausted. While packing late into the night, I ended up falling asleep, slumped over the sofa. The next morning, I was startled awake by the sound of the front door opening from the outside. I sat up abruptly, panic gripping me. What I hadn't expected was that Sam had returned, and he was holding hands with a young woman, Miranda. She was stunning in person, far more beautiful than any photo could capture. She carried several luxury brand shopping bags, and the diamonds on her high heels nearly blinded me. Clearly, he had already coaxed her back. My heart sank. I hadn't imagined Sam would return so quickly. Unconsciously, I raised a hand to my neck. The sensation of suffocation seemed to creep back, and for the first time, I realized I was afraid of Sam. I swallowed hard and forced myself to stand up from the sofa. Sam led Miranda right in front of me. He smiled gently as he adjusted her hair, then turned to look at me, his expression instantly turning cold. "Zoe, apologize to Miranda," he said. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything, after he cut off my family's livelihood, after he had almost strangled me to death yesterday, I thought he had already done the worst he could, and now he wanted me to apologize to his mistress? Seeing my stunned expression, Sam grabbed my chin and forced me to face Miranda. "Didn't you hear me? I said apologize to Miranda." Sam was a businessman. He knew exactly how to shatter someone's spirit, even if that someone was his wife of many years. Since stepping into the house, Miranda had not looked directly at me even once. She lowered her eyes, lips pressed into a delicate pout. Without saying a word, she gave off an air of grievance and innocence, making her look all the more pitiful. "Mr. Sam, there's no need for this," she said softly. "My status isn't honorable to begin with. It's only natural that this lady hates me." Though she said that, I clearly caught Miranda rolling her eyes and secretly glaring at me. When I remained silent, Miranda tugged on Sam's sleeve like a spoiled child. Sam, I'm a little tired. I want to rest, she said in a sweet voice. Sam gently kissed her on the cheek, his tone tender. All right, go ahead and rest. Miranda glanced around with her wide eyes, then asked suspiciously, but this is your house. Where am I supposed to rest? Without hesitation, Sam led her straight to our bedroom, the message clear as day. My whole body trembled uncontrollably. I bit down hard on my lips, barely stopping myself from screaming hysterically, forcing myself to breathe evenly. I watched as Sam carefully settled her into the room. Only then did I hoarsely call out to his back. Sam, let's get a divorce. You trampled my dignity like trash. You destroyed my parents' lifelong work. My eyes burned red as I struggled to stay calm. This is all my fault, I said, voice steady. I was blind from the start. Hearing those words, Sam raised his eyebrows slightly, standing casually in front of me with his hands in his pockets. He leaned closer, his handsome face inches from mine. There was something twisted in his expression, something deep and unreadable that I couldn't quite understand. Chapter 4. Who said I was going to divorce you? Sam sneered. As long as you behave and don't make a scene, you'll still be my wife, the wealthy Mrs. Sam. I stared at him in disbelief. What do you take me for? Unexpectedly, Sam stood up and waved his hand dismissively. Bored. Don't play the victim. Didn't you marry me for my status in the first place? Zoe, you know exactly how much your father's business flourished after you married me, and now you want to talk about divorce? I stood frozen, my mind completely blank. Sam didn't bother to explain further. He loosened his tie and went straight back into the master bedroom where Miranda was waiting. Maybe it was because I had endured too many shocks lately, but hearing how Sam saw my feelings for him left me not only stunned, but almost amused. Miranda poked her head out of the master bedroom again, wearing a silk robe, her hair loose around her flushed cheeks. Sis, I'm a little hungry. Sam said you're really good at cooking. She beamed at me sweetly. Since you've been a housewife for so many years, I'm sure you have a lot of signature dishes. Would you mind going out to buy some groceries and coming back later? Before she could finish her sentence, someone pulled her back into the room, and the door slammed shut with a loud bang. I said nothing. I simply took off my wedding ring and tossed it into the trash can. I gave the house, a house now filled with nothing but bitter irony, one final glance. Letting go was surprisingly easy. Before the nauseating sounds from the bedroom could reach me, I turned and walked out the door. There was no need for them to find excuses to drive me away. I wouldn't spend another second rotting in that place. On my way to my parents' house, I found myself pressing a hand to my forehead, overwhelmed. I couldn't stop thinking about what Sam had said. During our 4 years of college, I never knew his true background. He always dressed simply and lived modestly, so dating him had felt natural and unburdened. Besides, thanks to my father's thriving company, I had always enjoyed a comfortable lifestyle, better than most. After we started dating, Sam had opened up to me about his miserable childhood, growing up unloved and neglected. I had been so heartbroken. I wanted to give him all the love he had missed. I had spent all the allowance my family gave me on Sam, trying to win his affection. Every gift he gave me, I would return with something even better for him. After we moved in together, I even dedicated myself to learning how to cook, just so he could experience the warmth of home-cooked meals. It wasn't until Sam proposed and our families became involved that I finally learned he came from such a powerful and wealthy family. After our marriage, even though my father never openly used that connection to brag, business opportunities naturally came his way thanks to the Sam family's influence. Over the years, it was inevitable. Our family had boarded the Sam family's massive ship, and now, everything suddenly made sense. Sam had always seen me that way. Tears fell down my face without warning, and my heart felt like it had been hollowed out. Sam was right. His family was full of twisted, heartless people, and he was even worse, cold, arrogant, and detached. Maybe all these years, he had simply been watching me perform from above. Maybe he had never truly believed in my love. Maybe even his love for me had been nothing but an act. It was laughable. It had taken me 9 whole years to finally see the truth. When I arrived home, My parents had already packed everything. My father had said 3 days just to give me some breathing room. In reality, we had no more ties left. We had already bought plane tickets to leave the country that very night. Just before boarding the flight, my phone rang. It was Sam. Chapter 5. Without any emotion, I snapped my SIM card in half and tossed it into a trash bin. Most likely, after their little moment of intimacy, his precious canary got hungry, and only then did Sam remember I hadn't come back yet. On the plane, my mother held my hand tightly. I looked at her, this woman who had always been so poised and elegant, now disheveled and lost. Her hair streaked with gray, her eyes swollen from crying. All of this misfortune was brought upon them by their unfilial daughter, me. Instinctively, I wanted to say I'm sorry, but my mother just shook her head. She had never been the type to cry. Yet now, just glancing at me made tears fall uncontrollably from her eyes. Everything had happened so suddenly. We were all struggling to cope with this massive upheaval. "Mom, where are we going?" I asked. She replied, "Even though your father's gone bankrupt, he still has some connections. One of his old comrades heard about what happened and invited our family to stay with them abroad." She patted my hand gently. "Don't worry, sweetheart." "But you..." I knew what she meant. I could only shake my head and say, "Sam refuses to divorce me for now. Let's separate first. Once we're settled, I'll file for divorce. For now." That was the only plan we had. We would take things one step at a time. After landing, my father's old comrade came to pick us up with his family. His name was Oliver. He had a booming voice and introduced us warmly to his foreign wife. My son was supposed to come too, but he got sent on a last-minute business trip and won't be back for a while, Oliver explained. My father simply patted his shoulder. Old friendships didn't need many words. Uncle Oliver arranged for us to stay in one of his vacant villas. Everything was ready and comfortable, and we didn't need to worry about anything. After he left, our family spent the rest of the day unpacking, only finishing by nightfall. I was so tired that I could barely straighten my back. That's when I suddenly remembered, the problem still growing inside me. We rested for 2 days at the new house. Then my father, as agreed, went to see if Uncle Oliver could help him find a job. Even my mother, after regaining some strength, started looking for part-time work. Sam had enough power that with just a flick of his finger, he had easily destroyed everything we had. My father, feeling guilty for the innocent employees who lost their jobs, gave each of them generous compensation. Now, the money we had left was barely enough to cover our living expenses for a while. I forced myself to stay strong. There was no time left for regrets or sorrow. I made an appointment at a small clinic and underwent the abortion. After everything that had happened, at least I still had my family and the chance to start over. A month later, once my body had recovered, I officially started job hunting. Unfortunately, despite being fluent in the language, I had no real work experience after so many years since graduation, and no employer wanted to offer a decent job to someone my age. But it was fine. I told myself, as long as I had hands and feet, I wouldn't starve. Without telling my family, I found a job in the kitchen of a restaurant where the hourly wage was high. The boss was kind. He asked me to help clean up the kitchen trash, and if I was willing, wash some dishes too. I didn't feel ashamed. On the contrary, I happily accepted. This was the very first job of my life. Scrubbing plates until they sparkled gave me a surprising sense of accomplishment. 3 months passed in a flash. After long hours soaking my hands in disinfectant, despite wearing gloves, cracks and blisters covered every one of my fingers. It was a busy weekend, and the restaurant was packed. Dragging a heavy bag of trash, I struggled to throw it into the dumpster. It took several tries before I finally managed to lift it in. Exhausted, I crouched down, pulled off my mask, and let my nose finally breathe some fresh air. Just as I was about to return to the kitchen, a pair of gleaming leather shoes appeared before me, and then, a cold, chilling voice sounded from above my head. Chapter 6. Zoe, have you had enough fun? I didn't dare lift my head. My body felt frozen in place, and my blood seemed to rush to my brain all at once, making me go cold. Seeing me motionless, Sam patiently reached out his hand. "Get up, come back with me." I swallowed hard, forcing myself to calm down. Without acknowledging him, I calmly pulled my mask back on. There was still plenty of work to do in the kitchen. I had no time to waste on human trash. Seeing me silent and about to walk away, Sam grabbed my wrist and yanked me around abruptly. My hand, pale and swollen from long hours in disinfectant, caught Sam's eye, and he frowned slightly. "What the hell are you doing?" he snapped. "You're giving up being a wealthy lady just to wash dishes in a foreign country?" I stared directly at Sam's face. I realized that deep down, I still hadn't let go. The hatred I felt toward him was burning, raw and violent. Everything that had happened, everything I had lost, was thanks to this bastard. I tried to yank my hand free and swung at him, aiming for his face, but Sam easily tilted his head and dodged. Without giving me a chance to resist, he grabbed me and dragged me toward his car. When struggling didn't work, I kicked the back of his knee hard. Sam staggered, his expression finally darkening. Still, he shoved me roughly into the car and ordered the driver to go. I didn't know where he was taking me, and honestly, I didn't care. I knew that if Sam really wanted to find us, it didn't matter where my parents and I ran, he would track us down. I stayed silent the entire ride, but I could feel Sam's heavy, burning gaze on me more than once. Finally, he couldn't hold back and spoke. "Come back with me. If you don't trust me, your parents can come too." This time, I could no longer hold back, and I had no intention of enduring anymore. I let out a cold laugh, meeting Sam's eyes directly for the first time. "After just a few months, your memory's already getting worse," I said mockingly. "Do you have no idea who's responsible for ruining my family's life? You want me to go back and play housekeeper for your little mistress? Sorry. If she insists on eating food I cook, I swear I'll poison both of you bastards and send you straight to hell." We had already lost everything. There was nothing left to fear. Sam seemed genuinely shocked at how vicious my words were. He stared at me for a few seconds, seemingly thinking about something, but surprisingly, he didn't get angry. "You're mad because you still care about me," he said. "Miranda was immature. I already scolded her. Besides, you're still pregnant." As he spoke, he finally glanced at my stomach, only to find it flat. "How many months along are you? Why aren't you showing yet?" This time, I truly burst out laughing. Of course, when I first found out I was pregnant, Sam was busy playing lovers with Miranda. He probably only vaguely remembered me mentioning it once. He didn't even know how far along I had been. If everything had gone normally, I would have been 7 months pregnant by now. "Sam, you once said something that was absolutely right," I said, smiling brightly at him. "You said your family is full of twisted monsters." I listened carefully. "So, to avoid bringing another psychopath like you into the world," I beamed at him and said, "I already had the abortion." Sam's face twisted in rage, his eyes almost splitting apart. In a fit of fury, he kicked me out of the car. Watching his stunned, disbelieving expression, I couldn't help but find it laughable. Even now, he still tried to pretend he cared about the child. Maybe deep down, he always knew how real my love for him had been, but his nature was so warped that he always betrayed it, doing exactly the opposite of what a normal person would. He probably believed that no matter how badly he hurt me, I would never have the heart to hurt the child we created together. And now, facing this brutal truth, he was likely drowning in even darker thoughts. But it didn't matter anymore. Chapter 7. Sam had dropped me off in a rather remote area. I walked for nearly half an hour before I finally spotted a taxi. Wanting to save some money, I kept walking even longer until, at last, I found a bus. By the time I was on it, I realized it was almost time for the kitchen shift to end. Leaving without notice like this would probably get me fired tomorrow. I sighed heavily. Sam had come out specifically to pick me up today. He had gotten the news almost immediately after I left, but Miranda had been so clingy that he had ignored it for a while. The night Zoe left, Sam had come out of the bedroom in his pajamas and noticed a glint from the trash can. It was the wedding ring. He picked it up, expressionless, and studied it. That ring had been custom-made by a top designer, costing enough to buy 2 of Zoe's father's companies. Sam had deliberately told Zoe about that at the time. He had thought she'd jump up with joy. Instead, Zoe had been so frightened that she had hidden in his arms. Sam smiled unconsciously at the memory, but then his lips curved downward again. He was probably truly sick. Zoe's love had been so pure and beautiful. It made his days feel like a dream, but he couldn't stop himself from probing, pushing, digging deeper until he finally dug up a terrifying answer. This time, Zoe probably wouldn't forgive him so easily. Sam stood at the hotel's floor-to-ceiling window. It didn't matter, he thought. If Zoe was angry, it meant she still loved him. Zoe had always been obedient. He just needed to coax her more, and everything would be fine. Just as he was thinking that, Miranda returned from her shopping spree, luxury shopping bags cutting into her wrists. Swaying her slim waist, she threw herself into Sam's arms, planting a kiss on his cheek. "Hubby, come look at the new bag I bought. I fought for it for so long." Miranda beamed, proudly showing off her new purchase. Excessive wealth easily fed a person's basest instincts. Whether it led to rot or further bloom, Miranda had clearly chosen rot. Zoe, on the other hand, had rarely bought such things over the years, only when she had absolutely no choice. When she needed to keep up appearances for him, would she grit her teeth and swipe his card? Back then, Sam hadn't understood. He had even thought Zoe was being fake. Even with all his wealth, Sam still put on that act. But who was he pretending for? Every time this happened, Zoe would say, "Darling, I already live far better than most people. I don't need these material things. Wouldn't it be better to use the extra money for charity?" She would lecture him seriously. Keeping up with others is poison. It's completely meaningless. And when our child is born someday, we can set a good example for them. Sam would feel a strange itch in his heart. The more he loved Zoe, the more destructive impulses grew inside him. And eventually, when he met the young and dewy Miranda, he made his move. He wanted to see if all women were the same. The result deeply disappointed him. Sam walked up to Miranda, about to say something, when he suddenly noticed the ring on her hand. It was the wedding ring he had put away. "Where did you find that? You went through my things?" Miranda froze under Sam's furious gaze. She pouted and mumbled, "Isn't this ring for me? Who else could it be for?" "Honey, you're not going to be stingy about this, right?" Sam let out a cold, mocking laugh. At that moment, everything felt utterly meaningless. Without a second thought, and ignoring Miranda's screams, he broke the thumb wearing the ring. Carefully, he retrieved the ring and tucked it away. "You're nothing. How dare you wear something that belongs to my wife?" That night, Sam kicked Miranda out of the hotel without hesitation. Chapter 8. When my parents found out I had been working in a kitchen, my hands covered in cuts and blisters, and that I had lost my job, they cried out of heartbreak. "Zoe, your father and Uncle Oliver have partnered on a project," my dad said. "Give it a little time, and we won't have to worry about money anymore. You should just stay at home and rest. You still have us, why go out there and suffer?" He added. My mother nodded firmly and pushed me back into my room without giving me a chance to argue. Tucking me into bed. "Rest properly," she said, stroking my hair gently. "As long as your father and I are alive, we'll protect you." My daughter was born to live a good life. My nose tingled, and I quickly hid under the covers to hold back my tears. Late that night, the faint beam of a flashlight brushed across my eyes. Half asleep, I opened them slightly. There was my mother, wearing her reading glasses, carefully cleaning my injured fingers with disinfectant. She blew gently on each wound, then applied a thick layer of ointment. My heart softened completely, but I pretended not to notice and said nothing. That night, I slept better than I had in a long time. Ever since Sam had shown up that first time, I had a feeling he wouldn't let things go so easily. Sure enough, one day when I returned home, I found Sam sitting brazenly on our living room sofa. My father was sitting to the side, his face cold and turned away. I quickly rushed forward and shielded my parents behind me. "What are you doing here?" Sam stood up, smiling with an unnerving sincerity. "I came to discuss with Mom and Dad about bringing you all back home. I realized I was wrong back then. I hurt you and your parents. I've already taken care of everything. Your father can return to his company. Everything will be restored to him." I stared at Sam with a blank face. "You think we're pets you can just command as you please? Throw us a bone when you're happy. Slap us down when you're not? Sam, I've already told you clearly, you are sick. Your mental state doesn't deserve anyone's love. So please, get out of our home. Sam had never been spoken to like that before, but now, he was filled with regret. He didn't want to play mind games anymore. He just wanted to go back to the way things used to be with me. Without hesitation, Sam turned to my father and knelt down. Dad, I didn't understand before. I hurt you. Please give me another chance, wife. He murmured, reaching out to grab my hand. I slapped him away without hesitation. Watching him kneel and apologize gave me a small sense of satisfaction. But forgiveness? That would never come. Sam, please, just leave us alone, I said firmly, seeing that words were useless. Sam left that day, but I hadn't expected what came next. Sam began showing up at our house every day. No one spoke to him, but he would busy himself with random tasks. When we sat down to eat, he shamelessly sat at the table with us. It was like he had an endless supply of stubbornness, willing to do anything to achieve his goal. When I called the police, Sam simply flashed our marriage certificate. Our whole family was driven to headaches and frustration, yet we couldn't think of any way to get rid of him. Until about a week later, I received a call from the hospital. Sam had been stabbed several times and was now in emergency surgery. I was completely baffled, thinking it must be another one of his tricks. Bored and curious, I decided to go check it out. Outside the operating room stood a bloodied bodyguard and a woman I had only seen once before. At our wedding, Chapter 9, the woman was Sam's biological mother. Years ago, she and Sam's father had officially separated, and she happened to be living in this country now. I had once heard Sam say that when he was a child, his mother would openly cheat in front of him. She would even teach him that in their social class, as long as you lived well, ethics and morality were completely useless. I glanced at her but didn't greet her. Sam's mother didn't care either. She made a phone call, and before long, someone arrived at the hospital, dragging a woman behind them. It was Miranda. Her clothes were torn and filthy, her hair matted. One high heel was missing, and there were heavy stains on her thighs, leaving little to the imagination about what she had endured. Law and order abroad wasn't like back home. After Sam kicked her out, Miranda, once dripping in luxury brands but clueless and alone in a foreign land, had been an easy target. Miranda spotted me immediately. She went berserk, trying to lunge at me, but was firmly restrained. As she got closer, the overpowering stench of urine hit me. Breathing heavily, Miranda couldn't even stand properly, collapsing onto the ground. She still screamed at me, "You filthy bitch! What are you doing here?" Then realization dawned on her. No wonder Sam brought me here and said it was for a vacation. None of us responded to her madness. Miranda started laughing hysterically. She cursed me with incoherent words, then turned her hatred on Sam, calling him a heartless bastard who broke her finger and abandoned her without a penny. She had been furious, convinced that Sam had only gotten angry temporarily. After all, he used to like her so much. After getting her finger treated, she had gone to a bar to drink and relax. Some foreigners surrounded her, and who knows what they slipped into her drink. She quickly lost consciousness. After that, she lived through hell on earth. She was treated like garbage, violated countless times. Her life was ruined. If Sam never truly loved her, why had he ever seduced her? Miranda laughed bitterly. After managing to escape, she had bought a knife and stabbed Sam with all her hatred. A bodyguard leaned over and quietly asked Sam's mother what they should do. After a few whispered words, Miranda was dragged away. Watching all of it, I felt a sudden wave of emotion. Rotten trees can't bear good fruit. Compared to the rest of his family, Sam's actions almost seemed mild. Soon after, the emergency room lights went out. Sam was pushed out, hooked up to a ventilator, and sent straight to the ICU. The doctor greeted Sam's mother nervously and explained Sam's condition. One stab had hit his spine, not deep, but the nerves were damaged. Whether he would ever walk again was still uncertain. Another stab had injured his lower body, and he would likely never father children again. Hearing this, I felt a strange numbness in my heart. Was it fate? Or just karma? A few days later, I heard that Sam had regained consciousness. He seemed strangely accepting of the fact he might be paralyzed, even laughing to himself in a self-destructive way. He asked to see me, At my parents' gentle urging, I eventually agreed to come. Sam's room was particularly bright and spacious. His mother had spent a fortune hiring nurses to make sure that, no matter what, he wouldn't die so easily. I stood by his bedside, but Sam's eyes never once settled on me. Chapter 10. He slowly told me about everything he had gone through emotionally. At the end, he asked me, if you had known from the beginning that I was such a twisted, broken person, would you still have chosen to be with me? I thought about it seriously and answered, no, I'm just an ordinary person. I don't have the power to save anyone. Simply put, if someone wants to change, they must save themselves. Sam smiled as tears slid down his cheeks. He sincerely apologized to me and to the child who never had the chance to see this world. Whether Sam truly regretted it or not, I no longer cared. I just suddenly felt a great sense of relief. The problems that had haunted me for so long were finally resolved. Sam agreed to the divorce. He instructed his lawyer to draft an agreement, voluntarily giving me 2/3 of his fortune. This stirred quite a commotion among the Sam family. No one had cared when Sam got into trouble. But now that their interests were at stake, they quickly rushed out to interfere. Sam crushed their protests with overwhelming force. Even as a cripple, as long as he still had a breath left, he would never let anyone meddle in his affairs. I accepted it all with a clear conscience. I left the majority of the money to my parents. Their once stooped backs finally began to straighten again. When they heard about Sam's situation, they sighed, but quickly shifted to warning me, next time you choose a husband, make sure to check if his parents are normal first. They even joked that Uncle Oliver's son was a good option, around 30, unmarried, and very capable. I just smiled and said nothing. I quietly arranged everything and said goodbye to my parents. Those years of marriage had trapped me inside invisible walls. Now, I wanted to go out and see the world. I later heard that Sam returned to his home country. His family elders, still greedy, tried to place their people around him to gain whatever advantages they could. But now, Sam was like a beast freed from its cage. He took pleasure in hurting others, making life miserable for everyone who cared for him. As for the rest, I didn't bother paying attention anymore. Following the call of my soul, I traveled to the dreamy, beautiful Arctic. Witnessing the vast ice fields and the dazzling auroras, the crisp, icy air cleared my mind. Reindeer and Arctic foxes poked their heads out, and I waved at them, quickly snapping pictures, freezing those lively, wonderful moments forever. I took a cruise ship southward, chatting freely with many strangers. We shared stories, exchanged life experiences, laughed until it felt almost unreal. I posted countless photos on social media. Every post received a like from Sam. He never said a word, just quietly watched, like a rat lurking in the dark, afraid that even the smallest mistake might make me truly despise him. I traveled for a long time, and my final stop was the White Cliffs of England. I hiked up the grassy hills to the cliff top, stretched out my arms, and embraced the soothing wind. Click! Someone snapped a photo of me. I turned around and saw a strikingly handsome man standing behind me. He had incredibly gentle eyes, a soft shade of blue, a high-bridged nose, the very image of a refined foreign gentleman. And to my surprise, he spoke in familiar language. Hello, I saw your beautiful silhouette. Do you mind that I took a photo? He shook the camera in his hand. I smiled and shook my head. He said he was in the country for a business trip, and during some free time, he had suddenly decided to come visit the cliffs. We sat down together and shared a cup of coffee. He introduced himself. I don't know why, but seeing you felt strangely familiar. My name is Hudson. And you? I curved my lips into a smile. Zoe. Nice to meet you.